Hello everyone, this is Atypical Consortium, and today we're going to be going over some of the textures as well as importing, exporting with VRoid. Just to start off, I did decide to update VRoid. I'm now using the 1.23.2 version. Also, yes, I am sick, so you will have to deal with that through this video, just so you know. During this tutorial, we're going to be using both things that I have drawn as well as Stable Diffusion. The purpose of this is kind of to take you through the creative process. If you're an artist, and even if you aren't, you can find your way through it. It's not too hard, so we will be going over that. So don't worry if you're not an artist, you're gonna be okay. First though, I'm going to show you kind of the final result with one of the many that I could have chosen, which is this, my result, which is looking kind of like a mattress pad, to be perfectly honest, which is now why he's a vampire with a mattress pad, to be perfectly honest. And I actually started here with this texture. So we're going to go to, how I went from the sketch to here to here. So when we open VRoid here and we edit the texture, and for the first time use, you'll actually see that there is an underlying texture. And I've gone and I was erasing some of this because I was actually planning out kind of what I wanted to do by using the eraser tool. And when you're creating clothing, this is kind of a good way to really just find out what shapes that you want to have and do when you're creating a design. I know we kind of showed that in the previous video there. So that's what I was just thinking as I was going along and do this, just part of the creative process. It's really a lot of fun, and I recommend that you play a lot with just the eraser tool to create kind of a mask for yourself, and then export the image. You just go, right click and click export. So this is kind of what I did. I was just goofing around, and I just used the mirror tool, and I was using Psy because I use Psy a lot and I use Photoshop a lot, and just kind of made a bunch of flowery looking kind of symbols here and whatnot to just make a general kind of thing that I was going for, with the intent being here, for it to be, the alpha here and then the alpha here as well. And then I went on what's called basically Adobe. So hold on just a moment here. And I basically took a screenshot of my character here. I brought this into Photoshop and I kind of color picked the colors here. And then using another layer, I basically go and I'll make these boxes, right? And I'll just slap some color on here, and then I'll go over here with my other palette and go like this, right? And then I'll just make these gradients so that we got a little bit of a color range going on. And I went and I created this, and the reason for this is because when you do that, you get a lot of these intermediary colors, and that way you're getting a lot of different colors to pick for a color palette, and that ensures that you're going to make a consistent design all the way through. And then we're going to use my secret trick, which is to go to Adobe. So we're going to go to color.adobe.com/create/image. Now, if you've read any of my tutorials, any of my volumes, you're going to find a significant amount of information both about art and whatnot. So there's a treasure trove of information if you're looking or willing to read about art and about, animation, things like that. It has a ton of stuff. So if you want to learn, read. But right now we're going to select the file here. And when you go here, you can see, hey, there's a bunch of colors. I know I've talked about this previously, but it'll pick. And of course you can move it up and down yourself. But it'll pick, different colors. You can go down here, and then it'll pick a, several different color palettes, and then I'll take a screenshot of that, and I will use this as an overall color palette, which is how I ended up getting the colors for this, and then I just threw that underneath the design. And one of the best ways to actually do this, if you have that kind of a pattern, let's say you have a sketch or whatever, is just to, make a gray background. Let's say you have a sketch on top of here, so I'm going to draw something with my mouse real quick. Super easy, just, draw like that, say a rose, right? Mega, mega easy. If you can also download clip art, you could shove whatever you wanted in there. And I use a hard brush usually most of the time, because it's a lot easier for me to get cleaner edges. And then you just go like this underneath that layer. You go ahead, you make another layer, right click on it, and you go to create clipping mask. Then you create a, go back to your soft round, say, go like this. And then you go like this, and voila, you have this color. And then you take this and you shove it into Stable Diffusion, and voila, you can get, and you can go, even though I'm capable, obviously, of drawing some very intricate things, I totally blasé the whole entire thing right here. I just lazily did this. But then, hold on a second here, we can go over to this, for SDXL, and I can go, hey, this is not the best prompt. I just lazily wrote this as well, which is a beautiful 2D pattern of a flower, kimono with an elegant design, etc. You can read it yourself. But then I can go here, and I can make this, right? So now I have that pattern because I'm using it as the initial image as 7, 30, and I'm using Swarm. So if you don't know anything about Stable Diffusion, Swarm, by the way, is a great way to install it because it's easy. It's a couple of clicks. And if you have known nothing about Stable Diffusion, it's an incredibly easy way to do it. And once you have your image here, we can go ahead and bring one of these magnificent beauties, like this one, back into Photoshop. So this one, again, you can improve the texture, so don't take this at, face value here. I just lazily prompted that, and I'm not done. I was just, being lazy. So, create another layer, put that under there, and again, using the same technique that I've perfected over way too much time. Put that under there, select that duplicate layer on there, hide that because you want to preserve this layer, and then, now you could go and go to the image or wherever it is and go to color range and be like, yo, I'm going to select all that black there, and you could do that, or whatever it's selected, because apparently it knows way better than I do, and it might do that, right? Or you could just go and click on here, and you have the, and again, some may work better than others, like for this, or not that, one of these. Hold on. For this. This is actually very easy to do as far as the color range goes. So depending on what kind of output that you have, it may be easier to select the color range or not. It just really depends with Photoshop. And again, you really don't need to know that much about Photoshop or other programs to really do this. If you put enough effort into it, you're going to be able to do things with a fair amount of knowledge. I know people get sometimes intimidated when it comes to these kind of things, and the truth is, you don't need to be. All you need to do is to put in the effort, and if you put in the effort, you're going to be able to find success. If you just put in the effort, you can become better at Stable Diffusion, you can become, learn Photoshop or any other program or thing that you want to do in life, you can do it. So just saying that is a positive kind of thing that you just, need to keep moving forward. So I'm going to take that. All right, so now I have that, and I'm going to keep these up here because, there you go. So now we have this transparent, and I'm going to actually change the color on that because I'm just not going with it. I'm going to adjust that real quick here. Maybe we can change saturation. We're going to change the hue a little bit. Ugh, a little too saturated. I need contrast. It's a little too saturated too. One moment. I'm going to do that first by going to, the plus, add the layer. I'm going to hide this layer, which will hide the body. And we're going to import. And voila, we have another beautiful mattress on him. This is the fault of my own design. Whatever. So, now this is that. And whatever you want to do as far as design goes, it becomes a very simple and a very creative process because there's already a significant amount of templates that you can use for VRoid, and because there's already the ability to export to Blender to make animations or whatever it is that you want, especially because you already have the Blender plugin for SD as well and other things that you can do. So now I'm going to go ahead and export this after I save it, because first we're going to save it and we're going to save it as a new item. And then I'm going to go ahead and export it, and just to kind of show you again the process here of exporting, it's going to go here, export as VRM, and we're going to bring it in and we're going to show you a little bit about using it in Blender. Now, really quickly here, you can choose either the newer version when you export or the other version. They both work in Blender, so you can do either one, it doesn't matter. Now, if you haven't looked at any of my other Blender tutorials, I suggest that you actually go through them. Even if you're not as interested in animation, they have a lot of information on Blender itself. So if you really want to know how to work Blender, I recommend that you actually watch those tutorials. Even if they are a little bit on the long side, they will absolutely help you to be able to understand Blender at a fundamental level. So I do recommend that you take the time to do so. Now, I'm going to show you, because I am in what's called pose mode, And this helps you to be able to pose your model. And I'm just going here into the wireframe mode. And this is after, of course, that we scaled the pelvis bone. Now the pelvis bone you can see over here, this is the hip bone right here, but this right here is the root bone, and that's, up here. And if you notice, when we use the root bone, right, it moves the entire model around. And we'll be going over some animation techniques later on. We're just trying to get some basic idea of what we're actually doing and what we plan to accomplish, especially as we're using the plugins for Blender and other things that we might want to accomplish. So again, I wanted to say, make sure that you look at my animation tutorials and whatnot. Make sure that you check your setup, because I'm basing everything that I'm doing here on the tutorials that I've already done. So I expect you to be a little more familiar with these things as we go along. So I do recommend that you watch them, just because I've already announced all the kind of keyboard shortcuts and things that you already know, because I'm one of those people where I put a significant amount of time into learning Blender. And if you really want to know Blender, then you should seriously just watch the tutorials and you will learn how to use Blender. So now that I have this here, I'm going to make just a super quick, simple animation. And I'm just going to do a bunch of keyframes here. I'll go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to press Shift A and go ahead and make a camera that I'll put it in the center, because I have, again, my 3D cursor right here. Now usually what I like to do is I need to go over here to the end panel, and we can check here, this is the 3D cursor. But if you look over here, you'll see the rotation is 90. It's here in the center. If you go over the camera, you can see all the different settings that you would like to use. And then what I like to do personally is you press 7, you go back here, and then you can press Control Y. You can go back here, and then if you go to View and then Cameras, and this is the active camera. So what the active camera is basically what your camera sees during your animation or otherwise. So G and Y is going to move us there. So G and Z here is going to move that here. Now what I like to do is I just kind of like to move this on over, and then I want to go over here, check the resolution. I'm going to be, 1024 here, and that's going to change the final shape of the image. This is, of course, very useful if you're trying to, make images for whatever it is that you would like to train or do. Again, I just made a very, very simple, probably incredibly stupid looking animation. And I can animate the camera along with everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And I made a very simple, very stupid animation. He just acts like he's on a couch, because he's pretty much a couch himself. So now that I've done this, I can go ahead and render it. But first, you should totally go over here to the World tab that's right here. Now you can press Use Nose and Not, but I recommend that you actually use Nose, because that's smart. You can set the background to whatever you want. There's a lot of different things that you can do in Blender. We're just trying to look for something that maybe possibly fits his coat, something like that. You can set down the strength, you can make it lighter, you can make it darker. And also for the record, you can go to the shading panel here, go from object to world, and then you can do a bunch of absolute nonsense with the color, whatever it is that you want to do to your absolute heart's content, you may do for this. So again, it's very simple, fairly easy process. It just takes some effort to get used to. So all you just need to do is just kind of move forward and do the best that you can, and you will find something that works for you. Now, when we are rendering, we want to go over here to the Output tab, right? And we want to look at the temp folder. We want it to file format to the PNG if we're doing separate different files, which using Stable Diffusion, that's a very good thing to have. And there's a lot more that comes into animation that we can talk about. Again, I've covered a lot of this information already in my other tutorials. So again, please do check those out. And now you can see I've gone here and I've selected my thing, called it a PNG. And we have 100%. All right, so let's go ahead and render animation over here. And we're just going to say it really isn't going to take a lot of time because I only did 100 frames. And I'm not using any of the blinking or anything like that that VRM comes with. So don't worry, we'll be going over that along with how to actually make this realistic, because this texture here is bright, so that even if you put light on it, the shadow, it won't work the way that you want it to. So we will be going over a lot of these factors and how it works and how to avoid the problems. So you can go to view animation now, and then I'll just buffer a second because I'm recording. And voila, you have a little bit of an animation. To do this next part, I'm going to be using the Stability AI plugin. It's 0.0.16 version. You can get all that information on the website for Stability. And there's some documentation. There's places on the server you can find the link. So it is there for you. So I went ahead actually and added a sky and a rock that he's sitting on, and just in general made a little bit more for the animation. He's just putting his hands kind of together. It's not really anything significant for the animation. Basically, if you go here to the view animation, you can just see here the camera just kind of comes up. It just has his hands like this. It's not really anything significant. The reason I did this is because I just wanted to make sure that Stable Diffusion could basically just make whatever it wanted out of it. Because the long-term goal here is that we will be making some actually cool animations with Stable Diffusion. So I didn't really want to go all out as far as the animation goes, simply because we're going to be putting more time into the other tutorials that will be following this one. So I recommend, again, if you haven't viewed the other tutorials, and I will be putting a playlist together just for the record after I am done with this, to make sure everyone understands exactly what's happening. View those, watch those. It will make it much easier in the future to go through this. Also, I went ahead now, of course, it's just a fairly simple prompt here that I went with. It's just I use the Stability plugin. However, I do plan on using other options with SDXL. So just be aware of that. We will be doing that for our animations. So just hold on a second here, and I'll be moving over to automatic. So now here is the prompt I created. It's pretty long, and you can just kind of pause to read it if you want to. There's very specific reasons as to why I chose these prompts, but this is just something that I've been working on to kind of build a little base for me. But just like here, I've been working again on the prompt. Just kind of iterating on what I'd like to do, what I'd like to accomplish. Just kind of going back and forth and kind of seeing what makes it the most stable. Just kind of doing that right now and figuring that out, because I'd added a rock and everything to things. So that's going to be it for the end of this tutorial. We'll be going more into consistency and automating and just prompting in general in our next tutorial. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time. You have a wonderful day.